The mechanical whine of the clippers vibrated, a stark and unwelcome sound. Head bowed, a bitter taste rising in his throat, Amir felt the cold metal graze his scalp. Each severed lock that fell felt like a piece of his identity, his self-respect, being forcibly removed. The small, stark holding cell, usually reserved for brief detentions, was thick with a heavy silence, not one of respect, but of a palpable discomfort. Officer Kevin Davis, a white man in his early 40s with a rigid posture, seemed almost detached, clinical in his task. He wore sterile gloves, as if Amir's hair itself was a contaminant. Handcuffed to the bolted-down chair, Amir was utterly defenseless. "Regulations are regulations," Davis stated flatly, his gaze fixed on the task at hand. "Hair longer than 2 inches is prohibited in pretrial custody. You should be aware of that." Amir's gut clenched with a fierce urge to lash out, to spit defiance, to meet the officer's eyes and demand to know why his very being seemed to provoke such disdain. But he swallowed the bile rising in his throat, not out of fear, but a simmering, impotent rage. Just hours earlier, he had been part of a peaceful demonstration outside the Philadelphia courthouse. He and other young activists were protesting the aggressive stop-and-frisk policies and the disproportionate rates of pretrial detention targeting young black men in the city. At 20, a driven community college student, his arguments were articulate and impassioned. Yet a minor brush with a police barricade had resulted in an arrest for obstruction, leading him to this dehumanizing experience. "Finished," Davis announced, snapping off the clippers with a dry, impersonal click. Amir slowly raised his head. His face betrayed a raw vulnerability, yet a spark of defiance remained in his eyes. His once neatly maintained twists were now a jagged, uneven mess, a visible scar of the encounter. "You must feel like a real hero now, huh?" Amir murmured, his voice low but steady. Davis offered no reply, simply stepping back. The heavy steel door creaked open. "Defendant for preliminary hearing," a corrections officer announced gruffly. "Holding cell B." Amir was led down a narrow corridor, the silent, assessing gazes of the staff a palpable weight. No one offered a word, a gesture of humanity. The silence was thick with unspoken judgment. Davis followed, an unwelcome shadow, until they reached holding cell B. And then Davis saw her. The judge, a black woman with a closely cropped natural hairstyle, her skin the color of rich mahogany, and eyes that seemed to pierce through any pretense. Davis's composure faltered slightly as she looked up from the file, her gaze sharp and direct. A profound silence settled over the small room. "Name of the defendant?" the judge asked, her voice clear and authoritative. "Amir Johnson," the officer mumbled, his voice lacking its earlier certainty. The judge closed the file slowly. The name resonated. "Everyone except legal counsel, please leave the holding cell. This matter will be addressed privately." Davis started to object, but the unwavering command in her voice silenced him. Once the room was empty, the judge descended from the raised platform and walked towards Amir. "Amir, what have they done to you?" she asked, her voice filled with a deep, maternal concern. Amir's carefully constructed wall of control crumbled, and he choked back a sob. Davis stood awkwardly, his hands suddenly feeling clammy. A knot of unease tightened in his chest. For the first time, a flicker of something akin to fear sparked within him. Not the fear of physical threat, but a dawning apprehension of consequences, of a justice embodied by a black woman, a mother, judge. In the confined space, Amir felt the unexpected warmth and strength of the judge's hand on his arm, a blend of fierce protectiveness and unwavering resolve. At police headquarters, Captain Robert Sterling paced his office like a caged animal. The mayor's office had called twice in the past hour, and now community leaders were threatening to organize a press conference. "This Vance case is a PR nightmare," Sterling barked to his public information officer. "The kid's post went viral overnight. We've got students marching, clergy issuing statements. Control the narrative, or we're dead in the water." A junior officer timidly suggested, "We could issue a statement, say we're reviewing grooming policies, express regret, Regret? Sterling slammed a fist on his desk. This isn't just about a policy violation. This looks like racism. And if internal affairs doesn't bury this fast, we're looking at federal heat. Lawsuits. Oversight. Meanwhile, Kevin Davis sat slumped on his couch, staring blankly at his turned-off TV. His badge and gun lay on the counter like relics from a past life. The apartment was quiet, except for the occasional buzz of his phone, calls he had no intention of answering. He'd replayed the moment with Amir at least 100 times. The Clippers, the look in the kid's eyes, the judge's voice, calm but surgical, cutting through his defenses. Across the city, Amir sat with his mother in their modest living room. The television news droned softly in the background, muted. His scalp was still sore, the uneven patches hidden under a knit beanie. But the silence between him and Judge Evelyn Hayes wasn't strained. It was heavy, yes, but full of understanding. "They'll try to discredit you," she said without looking at him, her voice steady. "I know," Amir replied. "They'll say I was resisting, or that it was just standard procedure. They won't need facts, just a story that makes people doubt yours." Amir nodded slowly. He stared at the black mirror of the TV screen, seeing not just his reflection, but something deeper, a reckoning he hadn't been ready for. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" he asked. "What's really like, being a young black man in this system?" "I wanted to believe I could protect you with law and love," she said. "But that's the lie we tell ourselves, that if we play by the rules, they'll leave us alone. But they never do." That night, unable to sleep, Amir opened his laptop. The words poured out like water breaking through a dam. He wrote about the cold, indifferent feel of the Clippers, the way the room had smelled like bleach and steel. He wrote about Officer Davis, not just what he'd done, but what he represented. He wrote about his mother, a judge, forced to watch her son treated like a criminal before due process had even begun. He titled it, "They Didn't Break Me." By morning, it had been shared over 1,000,000 times. As Amir stepped onto campus, he noticed the change immediately. Classmates nodded at him in silent solidarity. A few stopped to shake his hand. Professors offered quiet words of encouragement. His post had sparked something. He was no longer just another student. He had become a voice, a symbol, but with that visibility came danger. As Amir walked toward the student union, he felt it, eyes on him. Across the quad, a man in a charcoal suit and dark sunglasses leaned against a lamppost, speaking quietly into a phone. He didn't move like campus security or act like a reporter. His gaze was too focused, too still. Amir slowed his steps, but didn't stop. He looked straight ahead, his pulse quickening. He'd read about activists being followed, harassed. He remembered his mother's words. "They don't need truth, just doubt." That he ducked into the student union and made his way to the back stairwell. Once out of sight, he pulled out his phone and texted his mom. "There's a guy watching me. Doesn't feel right." Seconds later, her response came. "Where are you?" "Stay put. I'm on my way." In the judge's chambers, Evelyn Hayes grabbed her coat and turned to her assistant. "Cancel my morning docket. Family emergency." Back on campus, Amir climbed to the rooftop of the Union building, the city stretching out in front of him like a jagged promise. He took a deep breath of the cool morning air. Below, the quad buzzed with student protesters gathering, many holding signs that read "Justice for Amir" and "Our hair, our humanity." Suddenly, his phone lit up with an unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered that a calm voice, male, spoke. "You're making powerful people very uncomfortable, Amir." "Who is this?" "You don't know me, but I know who you are, and I know what they're planning." Amir's grip on the phone tightened. "What do you mean, they?" "There's systems within systems. You touched a nerve. If you want to stay ahead of this, meet me. Tonight, 9 p.m., Franklin Park. Bring no one." The call ended. Behind him, the rooftop door opened. Judge Hayes stepped out, her eyes scanning his face. "Amir?" she asked. Sensing something had shifted, he turned to her, his expression unreadable. "It didn't break me," he said, echoing his own words. "But they're not done trying." And as the sun climbed higher over Philadelphia, the storm that had started in a quiet holding cell now threatened to shake the very foundation of the system that built it.